Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way morning briefing. My name is Ryan McGinlay at the Ryan McGinlay, and today I'm joined, as always, it seems like, by Anthony Haggerty, Tony Haggerty at A Haggerty 10.
What's this, Anthony Haggerty or A Haggerty 10? You can call me Mr. Haggerty, Mr. McGinlay. All right. And for those of you who are regular viewers, you'll know what I'm alluding to as of yesterday when I spoke about going back to uni and doing a bit of teaching. But there you have it. No, you can call me whatever you like, fella. It's all right. It's all good.
We've got a bit of continuity on this podcast, that's for sure. There's wee tidbits for people that watch every day, so people that watched it yesterday will understand exactly what we're talking about. But today we're joined by a couple of sort of news hits to go along. We woke up this morning with the news that Aaron Mooy, the Celtic midfielder that joined last season, is leaving the club. He is retiring from both international and domestic and senior football in a club sense as well. Tony, I was just wondering what your take on this was straight away, your sort of opinions on this news. We sort of heard it coming. We thought it was going to get announced, and it seems that very much is the case. So, Tony, what was your opinion on that?
I think the first thing you need to understand is that's a nightmare. They can't sing the Aaron Mooy song anymore. You know, Boney M's version of Daddy Cool will never be the same now. When you add the words Harry Cool or Aaron Mooy, Celtic supporters are bereft of a song for next season. And that's a bit more flippant way of looking at it. But on a professional level, I think what he brought, Ryan, was that real purple patch that he hit. 42 appearances, 11 assists, 7 goals. You know, and then there was a period in last season that he was unplayable, and had he been able to string that together for the whole season, he would have been a contender for Player of the Year. People were saying, can you put him in that mix because of that small sample size of games? But he, but he forced his way into that team, and it was his calmness. He was one of those players that kept a cool head when people were running around frenetically. And I say that with reference to his contribution during Rangers games. He seemed to be what Celtic needed. He would take the ball, he would shunt it on, he would move it on. We spoke off air just before we came on. Everybody will have favourite moments from Aaron Mooy, but I spoke about the assist that led to the winning goal in the League Cup final, where he strolled forward with purpose, shunted it to Hatate, who scored it across goal. Really underestimated assist that. It was just a cool bit of play when, you know, in that kind of white hot heat of a Glasgow Derby Cup final, and he kept his head. And I think he was an inspiration to those around him because he did have that experience. You know, the goals you said off air, you loved his 2 goals at Easter Road, first 2 goals that he got. Took a mean penalty as well. He was just, he just seemed to be calmness personified under pressure. The least demonstrative Australian I've ever known in my life. He just didn't seem to like being interviewed, but because he kept playing well and getting man of the matches, he was always put up. Just that old cliche. He did his talking on the park, and he was a gifted footballer. And one of those that fall into the kind of Lubomir Moravcik category for me, that you wish you'd got him earlier in his career, but you thank him for what he did. He bows out a treble winner, and shame that injury has robbed him of maybe a couple of years playing. But I think if your back's telling you that, you know, you're not up to it, then you've got to listen to medics. And I say he's gone out on a wonderful high, representing his country at a World Cup and winning a treble with Celtic. And I think he'll be fondly remembered by the Celtic supporters.
Yeah, not just remembered by the Celtic supporters. I think for most teams that he's played for, he'll be fondly remembered, especially Huddersfield and Brighton. You ask Huddersfield fans who their best ever player is, a lot of people will say Aaron Mooy. Yes. That just shows you it's a measure of the player and a measure of the man that pulled on that jersey. But 42 Celtic appearances, 11 assists, 7 goals, a treble winner. I don't know about you, Tony, but I think those 3 trophies that he won last season, whilst at Celtic, were deserving of his career, because it was a career that didn't really have that many trophies on it. But now he's got those extra 3 trophies that his career deserves. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it was a fitting end to, as you say, a glorious career, because he, in terms of Huddersfield and Brighton, they're not exactly fashionable clubs. but he made his mark in the Premier League with both of those clubs, didn't he? And also he had a stellar career at international level. And I think for someone who played the game, and he played it gracefully and very, very well, I think bowing out a winner will mean more to him than anything. You know, you can look back and say you were part of something special. He was part of a team that achieved. And I think you also have to credit the manager for bringing him in. The former manager, Ange Postecoglou, for bringing him in and realising that he could do a job. And I think, Huddersfield and Brighton fans remember him fondly, but I think there's a different kind of fondness when you etch yourself into Celtic folklore and history. And he was part of a treble-winning side, and only a few Celtic managers and teams have achieved that. So I think everywhere he goes, there'll be a Celtic supporter jumping out and saying, Aaron Mooy. I don't think you get a more fitting epitaph than that. And he'll, in as much as he's never quoted that, you're going to have to get used to it, because the Celtic supporters, you know the way they feel about players that make a valid contribution, and his contribution was sterling. I just wish we'd had him when he was younger, a couple of years ago, and got the best of him. A lot of people say never really saw the best of him, but that sample size of games that he played, when that kind of purple patch that he hit, he genuinely was pretty imperious and unplayable, and a cool, calm and collected customer, and a wonderful contribution that he made for those games, and helps Celtic drive over the line for the treble this year. So you wish him well. Hope that the back injury heals in time, and he's able to do something football, because he's a master wealth of experience, and he'll have gained some wonderful knowledge as well. But he just doesn't like being in front of that camera, Ryan. That's it's very hard when you spoke to him. But yeah, I mean, he just, and that's fine. Players can be the way they want to be, but he kept turning in brilliant performances, and he kept getting man of the match awards, and he kept being thrust in front of the camera. I remember saying to him at McDermott Park, when he scored that wonderful goal, and he took it excellently. I think it was 2 touches, and he lobbed it over the goalkeeper, and he came up, and it was yet another man of the match performance. And I said, and as he walked away after he was interviewed, I said, "You really hate doing this, don't you?" He went, "Yeah, it's a part I don't really like." But I says, "Well," says, "it's your own fault." Says, "Stop winning man of the matches. Just fall out the game for a period." And he burst out laughing, and he told me, "I think I might do that actually." So just kind of as a kind of witty aside, So, but no, excellent. You just wish him and his family well, and thank him for his contribution. Bows out a winner, and I think you said it there, nail on the head. I think a player like that deserves to leave with something tangible from his career, winners' medals, and he's got 3 of them from his time in Scotland. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. I made the point on Twitter earlier that he was either I've made it on Twitter. I'm not actually sure if I tweeted it out, but I definitely thought that. It's just been that sort of morning. He's a cult hero, but he's got the stats and the trophies to back it up to make him an actual hero now. I think a lot of people will fondly remember Aaron Mooy with his time at the club. I would just like to take you back to remember when he signed last summer. A lot of fans thought, "Oh, what is this all about? He's past it. He's 31, 32 years old. He just played in China. He hadn't played in about 6 months or something like that." It's to have that sort of impact in that middle part of the season. I think that's testament to the player and to the professional. It's almost as if he used the pre-season. It's almost as if he used the World Cup as a second pre-season for himself, to get himself fit, playing against Argentina and the likes. But yeah.
If you remember, the manager told you he was going to come good, didn't he? Because the manager had worked with him, knew him inside out, and it was just a waiting game with him. And when the time was right, and the real Aaron Mooy got unleashed for that, as I say, that purple patch in the middle of the season that he hit, and he was excellent. And that goal at Tynecastle as well, what a difficult skill that was, and he just made it look dead easy. It was like shelling peas. And that was an early goal, just settled Celtic right down, and it was a cracking strike. Another goal where you think, will live long in your memory, because it was just a brilliant move, and it was again it typified what Ange Postecoglou's Celtic were all about. And Aaron Mooy came into that team, and he bought into it as well, and he got it quickly, and he knew exactly what his job was and his role was in that team. And the manager clearly said to him, "Look, don't need to teach you about football. You know how to play the game. Go and show them what you can do. And Ange Postecoglou had always told the Celtic supporters that he was always a couple of weeks away from, fitness, all that kind of stuff. And we're all thinking, oh, when's he going to... My goodness, when that fitness came to the fore and he was fully fit and he was ready, I thought he was excellent. It was an excellent contribution. And as you say, worthy of the Aaron Mooy, and throughout his career, and that we kind of the twilight kind of his career as it turned out to be. But good on him, and I get back to it. I just wish he'd players like that a lot sooner, But again, he was cutting it with Huddersfield in the Premier League, English Premier League. And then he did the same at Brighton, and as you say, he'll be fondly remembered there too, but certainly not as fondly remembered as he is with the Celtic supporters who, that whole kind of middle bit of the season, he became like Greg Taylor, an automatic pick, didn't he, alongside Cal Mack?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was handy that he was in and around the team as well when Cal McGregor did get that injury. He became a sort of captain in that team too, whilst Matt O'Reilly played in the defensive midfielder position for, 7-8 games. He got a real run at that. So Aaron Mooy, in turn, got his fitness up. And we really did start to see the best side of him, the player that we knew was there. That's the thing about Aaron Mooy, or the thing that was always the case with Aaron Mooy. We always knew that he was a really good player. It was just whether or not he still had the legs to do the job that he was doing, or he had done at Brighton and Huddersfield respectively. But all the best to him, and whatever he decides to do next. I'm sure he's made a lot of money in his career. I've seen a post on Instagram from his wife that was absolutely delighted that he'd retired and said she's going to get more time with him now. So a very happy Mooy family this morning, and well done on a stellar career, I would say. Just before we move on to the sort of next topic, I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the ticker tape below. If you subscribe to the Celtic Way for £12 over the next few days, you'll receive 1 year's access. You'll receive articles from myself, from Aidan McDonald, from Tony Haggerty, who joins me, from Stuart Ross, Duco James, Alan Morrison. There really is something for everyone on the website, regardless of what you're looking for. And you'll also be notified of when we go online with regards to live videos as well. So very, very much worth a subscription for the £12. That'll get you sorted for the whole of next season as Brendan Rodgers' revolution comes into full swing. Tony, sorry, did you want to say something about that?
I think that offer's valid for the next 5 days. Is that right? I believe.
Yeah, it's the next few days. Yeah, the next 5 days or so. So you need to be quick. It's a flash sale, but if you pay the £12, then that means you get a full year's access. That works out a £1 a month for ad light free content as well, which means it doesn't clog up your computer with the ads. I know when I click on other websites with loads of adverts, my computer tends to shout at me. So that's not the case if you subscribe to the website. So yeah, a great offer is available for you guys. So if you're interested, then please make sure to check it out. Tony, were you going to say something there?
A bit like me, a no-brainer.
An absolute. I wouldn't say that, Tony. I'm not. You're going to fling me in the deep end of my hosting.
Yeah, self-deprecation, young man. It's a way forward.
That's it, absolutely. Just a point back on that Aaron Mooy retirement news with somebody like Odin Thiago Holm. I did tweet about this earlier. I remember tweeting about this. Odin Thiago Holm, 20 years old. Aaron Mooy's 32. He's just retired. Do you think this must be a positive for him coming into the team? The fact that there's another one less midfielder to compete with. If he does his stuff in pre-season, he'll be right in there with a chance at starting games or impacting games for Brendan Rodgers' side.
I tell you what it does do. It gives you that impetus, doesn't it? If you're a young man, you want to make your way quickly, hit the ground running, as they say. What an incentive that is. That Odin Thiago Holm can come in and say, I'm going to be that man. Excuse me. Say, I'm going to be the Aaron Mooy, the undroppable guy, or somebody who, hits form quickly. Let me show you what I can do. So it is less competition. So far, remains to be seen if Celtic will bring in another midfielder. But see if you're confident in your ability. See when you're younger, things like that don't tend to faze you. And we spoke about Odin Thiago Holman, and I love the fact that he stayed at Vålerenga and he played over 100 games and got that experience when he decided the time was right to move. Could have gone to Juventus, could have gone to Manchester United, decided no, I'm not ready, don't want to languish in the reserves or academy. Actually got those games behind him, and I think that's testament to a kind of old head and young shoulders. That shows a lot of maturity to me, anyway, as a footballer. And he's picked Celtic at this time to make that move. And I think he's a player who will immediately think, I'm going in that team. He'll want to be a starter, and he'll be signalling to Brendan Rodgers from the start of pre-season, I'm your man, trust me, let me show you what I can do and unleash me. And I think when you're younger, you're more confident, let's put it that way, that you can do these things. And I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table, Ryan, Odin Thiago Holman. And I think, as you say, there are places in the midfield up for grabs. Why not go and take one of those jerseys?
Yeah, and I think, again, it's shown that strategy, this recruitment strategy, will work, because we're replacing a 32-year-old. If we don't sign anybody else, we may go back into the transfer window and sign a midfielder. In fact, I'm pretty certain that we will sign maybe one or two in this window, just ones that will maybe fit Brendan Rodgers' style of play more, a wee bit more power in that midfield. But to replace a 32-year-old, in essence, with a 20-year-old, that's great for the squad. It means that somebody is coming in and they're hungry, not to be ageist. I know 32, you can still do a great job, but as a 20-year-old coming in, I don't think he needs any more indication that this is your chance. Go into pre-season, strut your stuff, play games and play the friendlies, make an impact in Japan, and then see where it's at. Because the season's just around the corner. I know we're going to talk about that next, but the season will come Odin home very, very quickly. I don't expect him to go out on loan. I don't expect him to come and make up the numbers as well. I think he's coming in to stake a claim for that first team.
Well, he's played 100 first team games in the Norwegian League, so he's oven ready, if you ask that. And it smacks to me of a bit of the kind of baton being handed on, doesn't it? Mooy's era has come and gone, short and sweet as it was. But now, as you say, this guy's not a project where in the past players like Odin Thiago Holman might have been viewed upon as projects. These guys are young enough, and if they're good enough, they'll be in that team. And I know everybody can look great in the highlights reel, but yeah, his highlights reel seemed as if he had a lot to offer, and he seems like the kind of player who, when you look at, could fit in well to Celtic's system. It might well be tweaked and changed slightly under Brendan Rodgers, but I like the look of him. But the proof will be in the pudding. You make up your own minds when you see them in the flesh. The eye test, and obviously there's this stats test and all that. Or the other guys like Alan Morrison, yourself, and Duco James, they crunch the numbers. But I think the big thing will be the eye test from his highlights reel. Yeah, you and I could look good in a highlights reel, Ryan. We'll get the best of the podcast, and we could make us look terrific. So but you look for certain things, don't you? Idiosyncrasies and just stuff that you think he can do that. He can do that. He looks good with the ball at his feet. He looks fast. He likes a tackle. That kind of thing. You just kind of when you watch highlights reels, that's the kind of things that the box tickers. You go, right, okay, he looks as if he can do that. Left-footed, right-footed, all that kind of stuff. But when you see them in the heat of battle, you quickly get a flavour for they're a player or they're not a player. And I don't mean you make snap judgments, but you just look at all the kind of basics and you say to yourself, yep, he can do a job or he will do a job. And I think the young man's confident enough in his own ability to do a job because he's picked the right time to make that move away from his homeland. And I think he's joining an exciting club with an exciting manager who are on the up and up. And I think he wants to be part of that.
Yeah, I would totally agree with everything that you said there. When you were talking about that player that passes the eye test, I instantly thought of Rio Hatate. It's just that's the one player that comes to mind. I think it was against Hibernian, the first game back from that mini sort of break that we had with regards to the COVID restrictions. We came back, it was a full crowd. Hatate within 20 minutes. I remember turning to my dad saying, this guy's a player. You just know instantly. It's that eye test. Yes, you can look at the analytics. There's the stats test and the eye test. I'm very much 50-50. I think the two go absolutely hand in hand. But if you see a player on the park that's doing a good job and passing that eye test, then you're in for a treat. And usually, a lot of the time, the stats will usually back that up. So yeah, it's at 20 years old.
I've got 4 eyes, Ryan, so that's, you know what I mean? I've got double the eyes of you.
Again, I'm not going to say that. You're trying to get me involved today, honestly.
But those 4 eyes have landed me in a lot of bother down the years as well, so people questioning your judgment and your wisdom. So
that's it. You've got double the analysis then.
Double the criticism.
Absolutely. But yeah, Odin Holm, very, very exciting young talent, 20 years old. I can see the sort of similarities between that and when Rodgers, I don't even know if it was actually Rodgers that brought him in, it might have been the manager before, but when Yuri Tielemans made his move to Leicester City, he was around about the same age, 20, 21 years old. He had played over 100 or so games for Anderlecht, so I think the similarities are there, even though he's a 20-year-old. He's an old 20-year-old in terms of experience, and that can suit the team.
That's what I mean. He's an old head and young shoulders. He's mature enough to say, I'm going to rack up the games here, go elsewhere, maybe not play. You could get lost in the football vortex. But he's timed his run to perfection, as all good players do, to take that next step in your career. And then who knows what will happen from now on in when he plays for Celtic. But, you're excited by that, by young talent, especially ones that you feel can be pitched straight in. And I don't know about you, I think this guy can be pitched straight in. I think Marco Tilio could also be pitched straight in from what I'm hearing and reading and what I've seen of him. Again, that's the manager's call, isn't it? They've got a pre-season to impress the manager, but these guys will be busting through the traps to do that, and they'll want to. I think the biggest thing that they'll have to adapt to is just the culture of Celtic and the life-changing nature of a move to a club like Celtic and all the pressures that come with it. So I think that'll be the culture shock to them in those terms where there's no let up, losing's not an option. But if you're confident in your own ability and you come into a winning mentality, you quickly grasp, this is quite good. I like this feeling where we have to peak and peak and peak and peak. A bit like ourselves in the podcast on a daily basis, But no, and I think players can thrive in that environment. Yeah, it's pressure, but surely that's why you're in football. You want to win, you want to compete, and you want to play against the best, and you want demands put upon you. See, the more demands that are put on you at a young age, you learn and you become. There's only a select few become the finished article, but you become polished and you become a better footballer. And I think Odin Thiago Holm and Marco Tilio see that this is the right move at the right time in their careers, because they are going to become better footballers for however long they're at Celtic, because they will learn so many great habits that they can take with them when inevitably that they leave Celtic. But I think this is the right time for that kind of move, and they will improve beyond belief as a footballer and also as a person as well. And I think lots of people like that challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Glea just comes in at the comment section saying Tilio teaming up with his hero Harry Kewell will be a winner. A lot of people will be a lot of these talents will be wanting to work with Harry Kewell. Maybe that is the reason. Maybe Brendan Rodgers has been told about the individual work that Harry Kewell does do with players, especially wingers. You've heard previously in the past players like Maeda talking about how much his game has improved because of Harry Kewell. Who better for an Australian coming into the squad as we think it will happen? It looks as if the deal is effectively done. We keep on saying that, we're waiting on an announcement. But for a fellow Australian to learn under Harry Kewell, that must bode so well for Tilio's chances in the future.
Well, there'll be a spot of hero worship there. Every Australian grown up knows about Harry Kewell and what he did in his career. And and the great thing about Harry Kewell is he just works away solidly in the background. He's never really put to the front, is he? He did the odd press conference when Ange was there, but I love that. Just lets him get on with his job. And Harry Kewell's job is to make the forwards better, isn't it? And if you can't learn from Harry Kewell, then where are you going to learn? And I think the great thing about Harry Kewell carries that aura and a bit of presence. He's been there, he's seen it, he's done it. And any youngster coming in, or any player coming in, well, it's a hat tip to Harry Kewell. Okay, I'll listen, there's gravitas there. But Harry Kewell's got down to the serious business of working with players and getting the best out of them. He's got the best out of Abada, he's got the best out of Jota, he's got the best out of Maida. The name checks and all that, when players actually do say them, my game's improved because of Harry Kewell. I love that. I love hearing that, because it's it's like, thank you for what you do for me. You work on me specifically, and my, every footballer has a specialism. That's why they have that position. So it shows you that Harry Kewell's a vital member of the backroom team, and credit and kudos to Celtic for keeping them, and credit to Brendan Rodgers for saying, I want these guys here. That continuity is vital, I think, for Celtic moving forward. And the only personnel change in the management staff is the manager, and it's a manager that you trust, who's tried and tested and has been successful in this country. The rest is still in place and in situ. It ain't broke. All you have to do is tweak it and to make it better if you can, and then go to that next level that you want and you crave so much on the European scene. But I think all these people who are working in tandem, they're vital components and cogs in the green and white machine, which is why they've been so successful. And I think players coming into that can see that, and they grasp it very quickly, like Sir Jota did, Abada did. Some players can come in and just hit the ground running because they grasp the nettle very quickly, and they realise this is going to be good for me. It's a reciprocal arrangement in terms of signing for Celtic. You're going to be improved beyond belief as a footballer. Embrace it, enjoy it, because it's wonderful. And there's a lot of players who will testify. Once you leave, there aren't many better places, but you find that out in the fullness of time. But all Celtic supporters and all the management and the staff want is, while you're here, give your all, because you get that back. You reap the rewards tenfold, 100-fold. And I think you can enjoy a wonderful period in your career for however long you choose to stay at the club.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the grass isn't always greener, and sometimes there isn't even grass when you're heading. It's more sand.
Yes.
I don't know what you think about that first segue onto.
Wonderful segue that is.
We've got to address the story that has been sweeping over the past 24 hours, maybe even 12, 16 hours, you would say. I know we did an emergency podcast on it, or an emergency briefing on the story, but when we got off the broadcast, Fabrizio Romano, that Fabrizio Romano, who seems to haunt us every day, it seems like he comes out with something negative. He's got a long way to go to balance the sort of Celtic stories. I remember him doing the Starfelt story back in 2021, so a couple more of them would be absolutely brilliant. Fabrizio Romano tweeting that Jota was close to agreeing a move with Al Ittihad of the Saudi League. Not to go over too much old ground, but what's your thoughts on this as more details have come out regarding it?
Listen, I think recent history has told us about players and managers. Okay, I think if you look at this as a Celtic supporter and just enter into it as, whoever plays for the club or manages the club, it's a marriage of convenience. It's a clinical, cynical transaction, right? These people are here, and they're in to use the monopoly, they are passing go and collecting 200, and all you ask from them is that they give their all whilst they're here. Now, Jota has given his all for 2 years. He spoke about embracing cultures, and he has embraced the culture at Celtic. He went to the Brazen Head. He signed for Celtic because he said he fell in love with the club. And it's very powerful. It's passionate. It's very seductive when you have 60,000 people singing, a song to you and all that. But if someone dangles a mind-boggling sum of money in front of you, it's and these are, you said generational wealth, you called it the other day, but these are offers you can't understand, never mind refuse, Ryan. They're mobile telephone number salaries, you're only human. If it sets you up for, for life and your kids for life, yeah. And everybody's loved Jota for the 2 years that he played. He turned up in big matches. He scored some vital goals, contributed some wonderful assists. But there were periods where he could go hot and cold. I mean, nobody's denying that. He wasn't a role model of total consistency. And that's not a dig. That's just, from your eye test. But there were games where, yeah, facts. So, but did he turn up in big games and score important goals when it mattered? He certainly did. And, and I'm not talking about the fact that he's going to leave to go to Saudi Arabia for cultural reasons. He's leaving for financial reasons. End of. Saudi Arabia want to challenge England as the self-proclaimed best league in the world. They have a bottomless pit of money, as we spoke about yesterday. Their MO, I think, as we spoke about yesterday, is to get the World Cup to Saudi Arabia, as well as, I think, in the future be part of either the UEFA Champions League or some kind of form of European Super Leagues, if you're talking about super powers and super clubs. So, if he's agreed terms, we say thank you again for your 2-year contribution. You gave your all. You embraced it, and you gave us everything you had. And I think it's, and looking at it as a supporter, you're devastated because it is the breakup of this team that you've created. But I think that was inevitable, wasn't it? Lots of people read a lot into the hug that he gave Ange at the end, and people putting 2 and 2 together. And but things happen. You get a successful team, and it gets broken up. Celtic, but what it does show you about Celtic is that the model that you talked about the other day, we spoke about the business model. The business model's working. You will get a handsome. My only surprise was that it wasn't a figure higher than 25 million, because we spoke about possibly, in the 30 million or the transfer record being broken. That was my only surprise. But again, when clubs come calling and they're offering that kind of money for Celtic players, it's very hard to turn down. And when the reputed 200 grand a week or £192,000 a week are dangled in front of players, then you cannot compete with that. You just can't. That blows you out the water. And sad to see Jota go. I think everybody has their own favourite Jota moment. He loved a still, didn't he? And I kind of, after he'd scored, he knew exactly what was going on. And lots of them. So I think he sad. And I think Celtic, is from a supporter and from the heart, you say you wish they could have held on to him longer. But the head tells you it's a decent enough deal for Celtic. Could have got more, possibly. But when these figures are bandied about for players plying their trade in the Scottish Premiership, then you have to accept them. You have to get on that train, don't you, and sell at the right time. So I think, is it the right time? Possibly not. But if that's what the player wants, then so be it.
I mean, that's the thing. What will his value be worth next year when we've got him another year less in his contract? The thing is, we're still selling him with 4 years left in his deal. We've kept him around for 2 years. 2 years is what we'd expect for a high-quality player, 2-3 years before they inevitably get sold on. It's this aggressive policy that Ange Postecoglou said at the AGM. Little did we know he was talking about himself as well, with his aggressiveness. I still think those comments about Juranovic when he left, he was foreshadowing his own exit when he was talking about ambition. And a lot of people didn't like to hear that at the time. I think Celtic supporters and Celtic fans and everybody involved in the club have got to be realistic where Celtic are at the moment with regards to their standing. It is a launchpad to more affluent destinations, and that is very much the case for Jota, regardless of what you think about the I don't know what your dogs are thinking about this. I don't think they're very happy with Jota leaving.
I'm not happy, as you can see. My goodness, sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. It's regardless of what you think about Saudi Arabia, the money is there, the money is limitless, and these players are going to move on.
Yeah.
It's 2 years. We can enjoy those 2 years. When we don't even know next season, he could have had an absolute nightmare of a season, and then his fee can go down. This is what we're talking about with optimum prices. Would he have got a higher price than this? the problem is the constraints of playing in Scotland mean that you're only going to ever be worth a certain amount.
If I were Celtic, I would have thought they might have played a bit more hardball on it, Ryan, and got the magical 30 million figure, because Kieran Tierney went for 25, so I would have tried certainly to go as high as 30. But I think you can't argue with the fact that if it's a deal worth 25 million quid towards Celtic, as long as it's reinvested wisely, and Brendan Rodgers gets, I hate using the expression, but their lion's share, or gets a lot of that money to reinvest, then you can go and find players. Can you find players of a better quality, or equal quality? Well, that's what our scouting department's doing, and should be all over that and preempting these kind of things. So is that why Marco Tilio has been brought in? Who knows? So, and people say, but Jota's worth 25 million, you're only spending 1.5 million on him. I don't really go a lot, and you're only worth however much someone's willing to pay for you. Again, I'll go back to the eye test with players. You make your own judgments in the fullness of time when you actually see them play. So Jota came from Benfica. He was highly regarded. Benfica and kind of lost his way a wee bit, didn't he? So I wouldn't say he was damaged goods per se, but he came with someone who had a reputation as a younger player, but hadn't lived up to the billing or fulfilled any kind of potential. And again, that's why Celtic's a wonderful place at this moment in time. You can rebuild. Jota's rebuilt his career on the back of 2 great years at Celtic, and it's been reciprocal. He's loved the club, and he has been loved, and he leaves a lot of supporters with a hole in their hearts, a gaping hole in their hearts, Ryan. But life goes on. Everybody gets replaced, don't they? It's hard at the time, but we spoke about it when we joked about it yesterday. Still cry about Kenny Dalglish leaving. That was 1977, but life goes on. New heroes come along, don't they? And I think the way Celtic are doing business, it won't be long before you're seeing new heroes emerge, heroes brought in, or other heroes that are already there, enhancing their reputation. So it's the wonderful nature of football, isn't it? That players come and go. But I think Brendan Rodgers' first spell has taught us, and then Angie's spell there, we're a wee bit more, well, certainly speaking for myself personally, I think we're a wee bit more hardened now, a wee bit more cynical about the fact that managers and players will come and go, and I use the expression that it's a marriage of convenience now, and I think a lot of fans will be of that mindset as well, that we enjoy them while they're here. Don't love them, don't get too attached, as the former manager said, clearly talking about himself as well. So I guess, and I always said it, and it's funnily enough, I used to say, listen to the man, he signposts it. Yet a lot of us were blinded to the fact that he was signposting about himself and others, Juranovic, Jota, but mainly about Ange Postecoglou himself. We all felt he was a bit different the way he spoke and the affectionate terms that he used when talking about the football club. That's fine. That era has come and gone. New heroes always emerge. The one thing we always talk about, the constant, is the Celtic Football Club and the supporters. Now, it doesn't make you love the club any less, but I think you're just a wee bit more wiser. I'll be 51 in a few days, Ryan. I'm still learning, still evolving. So, it's never, you're never too young to do that, especially when it comes to your football team. It's always a heart and head thing with your football team, isn't it?
Every day's a school day, Mr. Haggerty, as you will very well know. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those ones. 2 years, 2 absolutely brilliant years from Jota. Yes, he did blow hot and cold. All wingers do. I still think that Celtic have got to be in the market to look for a player, look for a winger that is better than Jota. We've got to be improving from where we are, or bringing in a talent that will get there in due course. I think those players are out there. There was deficiencies in Jota's game. I'm not going to talk down on him just because he's leaving the club, or it looks as if he's going to be leaving the club. But he did have some downsides to his game. There's some of his wing play, much like much like Abada, could leave a lot to be desired at times, but you can't question his goals and his assists, especially towards the end of the season. I thought he did himself justice at the end of the season with that run of goals that he got and run of contributions in the team. But if it does happen, I do wish him all the best. He's been a great servant, and you're just hoping that Celtic are well compensated for their loss, and Mark Lawwell and his transfer team find another talent. I put in the comments section that Marco Tilio story. It was regarding it was from Druco James. He was saying that why Celtic target Marco Tilio would be an instant starter. It's actually a comparison. Part of the article is a comparison between himself and Liel Abada. A lot of similarities with regards to the goals and assists that they both get. Very much a player that dominated his respective league, the A-League. When I spoke to Sasha Pisani, which is on the channel as well, he said the same thing. He's a very exciting young player, and one that Celtic can develop over the next couple of years. And it's exciting times, regardless of the fact that we're losing some of our best players and our manager. It is exciting times.
The same as Jota. Celtic can develop a player like Marco Tilio the same as Jota.
Absolutely.
So that's somebody saying, Mr. Haggerty, if I call you that every day, can I get a free subscription? £12 for
a year subscription, guys.
But yeah, I think, and as I said before, I'm excited about the future. What's happened in the past 2 years has happened. It's now kind of in the past, isn't it? You're moving forward. Celtic are constantly evolving, and they are looking for these players, the new Jotas. You know, we're not acting like a big club if we're not, Ryan. But I'm convinced that they are. They've got their act together in that sense, and they are preempting these kind of things. So possibly with the arrival of Tilio, they maybe see him as somebody who can fill the Jota role if the Jota thing came from left field yesterday, but it might have been rumbling on for a past few while. You know how agents talk and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, so I'm pretty philosophical about it. I accept that once you get a good team, Celtic team, inevitable bids will come in for your players. I think it was Steve McGrory that made a good point. I think Celtic could handle the loss of 1 or 2 stars. Now, if another one was to go out the door, I would be fine with that as long as they were suitably recompensed. But I would cap it at that. I don't think Brendan Rodgers came back, as I said yesterday, for a fire sale. This is the nucleus of a brilliant team, but a decent team. And he's inherited a wonderful situation. We can't just let all and sundry leave the club, you know, before he's had a chance to work with him or speak to him or whatever. If Jota turns out that he wants to go for the mind-boggling sums of money that are on offer, then good luck to him. We move on. Thank you for your contribution, but Celtic have got a job to do here. So, you know, you'll always be fondly remembered in our hearts and our minds, but you know, we have to concentrate on the here and now. So, and we've still not heard from Celtic or Jota or his agent, but I mean, we're assuming that it's going to happen because various outlets, reputable outlets, have been reporting that it's more or less a done deal, or there's certain things to be tied up, and that will happen. So, but yeah, I think Celtic are, as you say, with the addition of Mark Lawwell, they're all over world football, scouting talent and trying to get them, as we spoke about the other day, at that optimum time, like Odin Thiago Home, like Tilio, where it is beneficial to both Celtic and the player themselves, where you can get that 2 to 3 years, hopefully, the Jota type 2 to 3 years, where they come in and they make an impact, and then they maybe take their own career to the heights that they believe that they can scale. But and you accept that's where you are in that kind of spectrum. We are a kind of stepping stone to bigger things, aren't we, for a lot of footballers? But whilst you're here, be the big thing in our league, and be the big thing as much as you can for us in a European sense. And I think that's what Celtic are about now. That's what the scouting and the model's about, getting those younger, hungry players to come in and before they just hit their total peak, but getting them at the right time and when their career trajectory is on the upward curve. And I think it can work out well for Celtic in the long run. And I've got a manager that I would trust at the helm, and if he's given real serious money, then I think he can invest it wisely.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. It's very much we move on. If the deal happens, we'll move on. And we're Celtic supporters at the end of the day. We're not Jota supporters. We were Jota supporters, but as soon as he takes that top off, the home top that's getting mixed reception at best, then
What is it they say, Ryan? Bring on the new Messiah, wherever he may roam, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's what it is, isn't it? So there we go.
Saturday, August the 5th at 12 o'clock. What does that date mean to you, Tony?
Means Ross County, doesn't it?
Ross County at home, first game of the season. We're getting closer to the start of the season. It feels like we've been in the doldrums forever with regards to talking about potential games next season, potential fixtures. But the announcements have been made, and Celtic now know their destiny, or now know how to shape their destiny in the form of the fixtures for next season. So we'll be starting off at home against Ross County on Saturday, August the 5th. That'll be Flag Day. Looking forward to that. Another Flag Day. You never get bored of Flag Day. I don't know about you, Tony. It's just
never.
It's one of those highlight games of the season. Really looking forward to that.
How can you get tired of winning? I never.
That baffles me.
It baffles me. And there's no better sight than seeing that flag unfurled in front of 60,000 in Paradise every season when possible. And yeah, Flag Day will be great. It'll be the new era of Brendan Rodgers. There'll be a real buzz of anticipation and excitement around that. And I think ourselves put up the first 5 fixtures: Ross County at home, Aberdeen away, St Johnstone at home, Rangers away, Dundee at home. Now, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I want 15 points from that.
I would want 15 points regardless.
Nothing else matters, right? If you're going to go after a flyer, I want 15 points from that. 13 at worst if you go to Ibrox and not lose. But Absolutely. Even then, I'd still be pretty disappointed. I want 15 from the first 5 and then take it from there. There's a double dunter, Hibs and Hearts away in October,
end of October.
Yeah, end of October. Yeah, that'll be crucial as well. But those first 5 games, I'm looking at them I don't see anything that frightens me in terms of, you have to play everybody at some stage. But I'm looking at Celtic to hit the ground running and just a continuation from where they left off domestically under Rodgers, with a couple of tweaks to the system here and there. There'll be a couple of new members of personnel, hopefully. But I'm excited about what the new season will bring. And I think the Ibrox game at start, cliche, isn't it? I want to go there and win, even though there'll be no Celtic fans there, and lay down that early title marker. Just say, it's our title. We're not relinquishing it for anybody, regardless of all the noise that you might hear around Rangers and noises emanating from the other side of the city. Celtic are champions for a reason. Go and show why you're the champions in the first Glasgow Derby of the season, which I believe September the 3rd. Is that right?
September the 3rd, yes. That'll be on TV as well, obviously. Just talking about the...
Yeah. On you go, sorry.
Yeah, so just talking about, I think one of the other times that you look at when the fixture list does come out is that congested schedule over Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Every team faces it, home, away, etc. So it starts off with Livingston at home on December the 23rd, then Dundee away on December the 27th, followed by Rangers Glasgow Derby at home on December the 30th, and then St Mirren away on January the 2nd, followed by a break of 25 days. I think that'll be the sort of winter break schedule. So if you get all your points in that, you leave yourself in a really, really good position going into the second half of the season.
Of course, and it's all that kind of one game at a time, all that stuff. I get all that, right, and challenges present themselves. Every game's a different challenge, but you look at those cluster of games as well, and you would target 12 points there as well, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I would target. Obviously, you look at the game situations. You don't know how a game is going to turn out, but you look at on paper, and I know no games are played on paper.
Yeah,
you'd expect us to win those games. So if you concede a wonder goal, if there's a mistake at the back, if your team doesn't play the way it's meant to play. If there's a drop in form, then these things can come into consideration. But on paper, you're looking for 12 points out of 12. Celtic, I know the focus, well, the bread and butter is the domestic game, but Europe has got to be looked at as well, and that'll get thrown into it as well with regards to the scheduling.
The great thing about Europe, though, is that not having any Champions League qualifiers, it's massive for a club like Celtic. It enables you to concentrate solely on the start of the season and getting your campaign up and running from the kickoff, from Flag Day onwards, signalling your intent early and getting into a wee rhythm and stride, so that by the time you do play in the Champions League, there's you're on it basically every week, and there is a rhythm there. There's a tempo, there's a fluency, fluidity to the way you're playing, and that's what I'm looking forward to most about Brendan Rodgers. The fact that we don't have Champions League qualifiers. He qualified 2 out of the 3 seasons he was here. What didn't he? The first time from qualifiers, and it took its toll on Celtic. Those games do. They are mentally, physically, they're bruising challenges. And everybody remembers the Hapoel Tel Aviv game, when I think they were just put through the absolute emotional ringer that
Beersheva.
night. Beersheva, sorry, yeah, Hapoel Beersheva, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Astana as well, the two ties against them. That Kazakhstan is a blister.
Yeah, they had moments in them where you thought they were going to crumble completely and get knocked out. So there's a real mental fortitude needed to negotiate the qualifier. So the fact that you're not having to do that, it's a real bonus for Celtic. Your mindset can be Ross County, right? First game, and we blitz it. You have a right go to it, and then obviously you'll know your opponents in the Champions League. That will take care of itself. You're playing quality in the Champions League, but go and be a quality side yourself, so that by the time you're entering that competition, you can, it can be ratcheted up a notch, and you can cope with that. And everybody's got a feel for how they're playing and the style and all that. So it's exciting. You don't want to say too much, because obviously you can pontificate and nothing like what you're spouting can happen. And I know you're a bounce of the ball, a refereeing decision away from, a wonder strike away from dropping points. We get all that. I'm just talking about your ambition. Is the ambition to do another invincible season? Why not? Why not? Start with that base,
we are.
Level of ambition. And I'm not stupid enough to think that it would happen again. But you've got to try and emulate it, haven't you?
We are in silly season just now, which means these comments and these aspirations are very much allowed at this point in time. Obviously, you just see it's a big thing as well. The fact that there's no Thursday night games as well, with regards to the Europa League, having that Champions League qualification secured. Yes, we might have Thursday night games. Hopefully, we do have Thursday night games in the second half of the season if we manage to navigate ourselves through maybe a difficult Champions League group. If we can't obtain second, then a third place finish to continue our pursuit in Europe would be good. But not having those Thursday night games to begin with, you've seen that with teams down south that really, really struggle to deal with that Thursday night, Sunday. You've even seen it up here. There's that European hangover that sometimes comes around to the team. So having that, you're playing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then playing on Saturday, and then the occasional Sunday. That suits the team. It's that really works for the team and everyone involved with that.
Yeah, I think the invincible comparison was that's me speaking from the heart.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Supporter, yeah. The head tells you it's probably improbable and unlikely, but I think in terms of setting goals and setting ambitions, I mean you're going to start with that. Can they do it again? When Brendan Rodgers said, I manage a Celtic team that went through a season unbeaten, could we do it again? Could we make history again? That kind of thing. So that you've got to constantly evolve and set challenges every time. Ange Postecoglou was fond of saying it, wasn't he? That every game presented a different challenge. I agree with that totally. It does. And you adapt to changing circumstances, and good teams find ways to negotiate those challenges and hurdles that are thrown in front of them. And Celtic proved themselves to be a good team during his reign. I don't see any reason why that can't continue under Brendan Rodgers, and hopefully he can improve them. And how do you improve in a treble-winning season? Anything less is going to be looked upon as it's not progression. But I think you've got to win a title, first and foremost. The League Cup and the Scottish Cup are bonuses. But if you win the league title and you focus a lot of energy and channel a lot of energy into doing well in the Champions League, and if you do fall into the Europa League that as well, or go as far as you can in the Champions League, then I think lots of Celtic supporters would settle for that this season, just to show those signs of improvement and progress.
Yeah, I would swap a domestic cup for a run in Europe. I'm absolutely desperate for one of them to transpire. I don't know if you're aware of this, Tony, but there is Celtic actually do play tomorrow. A version of Celtic do play tomorrow against Fraserburgh in a charity benefit match. I know there's a wee bit of history from the past. I think they were the first team to play it after a disaster happened or a loss of life happened.
Kevin McKenna wrote a piece about that, and you'll get it on the Celtic Way archive if you key in Kevin's name and key in Fraserburgh. Yeah, I think Jock Stein took, I think
10
it was
10
days after, 1970, I believe, wasn't it?
Sam
was in between the European Cup final against Feyenoord, I believe. Round about then, certainly, and he took a very strong Celtic team up to play Fraserburgh, so there's real historical connections there. So if you're in that neck of the woods, go along and see a version of Celtic take on Fraserburgh. It's I feel a bit jealous because they're getting a fix of football, Ryan. You know what I mean? But,
absolutely. Yeah, it's coming round, Tony. It's coming round. We just
I know. It's slowly but surely.
Yeah, then I forgot to mention that the final Glasgow Derby of the regular season, obviously you'll have one, barring an absolute collapse from one of the teams. You will see one after the split. Rangers away from home at Ibrox in April the 6th. Could be if there is a title race still on at that point, either way, then that could be a massive game in deciding the direction of where the title is going to go. It will be a big game, always is. These games are never a dead rubber, as I've spoke about previously in the past. Yeah, you circle these games as Celtic fans. You will circle these games. They are the bragging rights games. They are the derby games. So yeah, looking forward to that on April the 6th.
Yeah, I think you get into the mindset as you expect the best version of your rivals to come at you, and Absolutely. You are embroiled in a title race, regardless if you are running away with it at any particular stage. But you get into that mindset that you are being hunted down or chased down, keeps you hungry to stay at the top, and obviously you don't slacken off. So I would just get into the mindset that there is going to be a title race this season. The gauntlet's been thrown down, and it's a challenge that Celtic players will rise to every week. I don't think the manager will accept anything less than 100% focus in retaining that title. And if Celtic be the best version of themselves, then there's no reason why they can't reel off 3 in a row, because they have, assuming that there's no more departures, or maybe one more departure, depending on who that may be, and obviously personnel being brought in, then they're in a strong position to continue the good work that the previous manager started. And we have a manager who, if he can improve that team, then you are just keeping a tin lid on it, aren't you? Because it could be another period of excitement for Celtic and the team and the supporters, and it's something that you're really looking forward to. The start of the season can't come quick enough. It also, as well, you look around the other clubs. Hibs are spending a wee bit of money and bringing in some players. Aberdeen are doing the same.
Aberdeen's recruitment in particular has been phenomenal.
Yeah, so lots of teams are improving, or certainly trying to improve, and they're coming for you too. You're at the top. You're on that lofty perch, and you're there to be shot at and got at. So that's another thing that you don't just necessarily assume that you're going to turn these teams over. Hibs served a wee warning with 4-2 win at Easter Road the last time you went there. So very mindful of the fact that you're the title favourites and you have everything to lose, basically. So I just think we you caught on quick that no, let's show them why Celtic are the best team in Scotland and have been for the past while, and go out there and give it a rip again under a new manager with some new ideas, some new blood, but lots of familiar faces, and you trust. You certainly the ones that will stay. You trust them to perform to the best of their ability and to a high standard, and make sure that they continue their dominance domestically. But we all crave that run in Europe, don't we, Ryan? It's just the one box that remains unticked, isn't it, so far?
Yeah, hopefully we tick that box and I get to see a couple of runs in the Europe. Yeah, fingers crossed. That's been over an hour we've been on. I think we've did Aaron Mooy justice with his sort of announcement, and we've spoke about the fixtures. So it's been a really, really good and informative podcast. We've also talked about the state of the future with the midfielders. So yeah, we've discussed plenty today. Just before we finish, if I could just direct you down below, if you are interested and you would like to subscribe to the Celtic Way website, you can support top quality journalism covering the club you love for only £12 for 1 year's access. That works out at roughly £1 a month. That sorts you for next season. That'll get you all of the analytical pieces that will come from myself, that will come from Alan Morrison and Juco James, Stuart Ross with his scouting pieces, Tony with his big match reactions, and some big interviews as well. They've been absolutely brilliant. We've had Eric Sviatchenko in the past week or so, had Mick McCarthy in the past, Billy Reid, you name it. You've got all the big names. You get the A-listers coming through. Get Aidan with his pieces as well. He's got his newsletter pieces as well as reaction. So yeah, if you are interested and you'd like to take a wee look, then subscribe. £12 will get you 1 year's access and very much value for money. We don't claim to be fan media, but we're not the press either. We are this new form of media, we would say. So yeah, it's a very much exciting time for the website, and get involved if you're interested. Tony, I don't know if you want to say anything else on that.
I was just waiting to see if David Coleman was going to come in and say there's a new world record, because I don't know what the world record is for the Celtic Way podcast. I think we've gone over an hour before, but I can't remember, so might well be. But hey, hope you've enjoyed it.
Is that curtains? Yeah, but it's been an enjoyable podcast. Thank you very much as always, Tony, for joining me. If you'd like to hear more from us, then follow us on Twitter at the Ryan McGinlay and at Haggerty10. And if you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe, and you'll get notifications for when the next video comes out and for when live streams come out, just so that you're first in your week. And thanks to everybody that's commented today. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll be another weekend closer until Celtic return. Celtic are back on Monday in pre-season.
Is it the Ross County game yet?
I know. I'm desperate for it. But have a great weekend, guys. Thanks as always for commenting, and enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. Cheers.
Thank you.